Now, I would like to welcome and request Shri Surya Prakash Mahapatra sir to switch on his camera for the audience, please. Sir, please allow me to introduce you to the audience. Shri Surya Prakash Mahapatra is one of the recognized global leaders in India for his abundant work in the field of capability building and learning management. He is the moderator of a global network of learning and development professionals with over 18,000 members. He contributes to various international forums on topics related to HR, corporate culture, spirituality, and also is the editor of Ekakshara, a quarterly e-magazine for HR professionals. Last but not the least, he has been a satsangi since his childhood and has been leading an ideal-centric life. So, now I request you to share your thoughts on sustainable mental health and happiness.
Thank you so much. Thank you for these beautiful words. And thank you very much for this opportunity to be part of this global webinar on ideal-centric life. I would like to begin by offering my pranam at the lotus feet of my spiritual guide, Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra. I would like to pray at the lotus feet of Sri Thakur for the well-being of all of you who are attending this webinar today, your families, your neighborhood, and the mankind. As all of us are participating in this global webinar, this is the fourth event in continuation of the event, the Ideal Centric Conference that takes place every year in the city of Hyderabad. This is the fourth such occasion, and Satsangis of Hyderabad have been organizing this Ideal Centric conference on ideal centric life every year for the last 4 years. And this year, there was a plan to organize this event in person, where delegates, seekers of ideal centric life would have participated this event in a physical location. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 situation, this event had to be converted into a global web conference. For this event today, for this fourth annual event, for the fourth annual Ideal-Centric Conference, the theme for today is sustainable mental wellness and happiness. This is a very pertinent topic in the context of our times. The times that we are experiencing today are unprecedented times. Times we never experienced before. There is a fear of death. There is a fear of getting infected. There is a fear of getting isolated. There is a fear of getting quarantined. There is a fear which is lurking, which is hovering over the minds of the mankind. Never before in the history of mankind, billions of people were locked down, were restricted to their homes, their livelihoods were impacted, their lives were impacted. And a theme like this today cannot be more appropriate in the context that we are, in the times that we are living in today. When we talk about mental wellness, in the context of mental overall, physical, mental, and spiritual well-being of the man, when we talk about mental wellness, when we look at mental wellness in the context of our entire being, This is an integral part of human beings' overall wellness. The World Health Organization, in their definition of health, they have said health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Many times we believe that if we are not suffering from any disease, we are healthy. But a man who is physically all right may not be healthy. He is not physically and mentally and also spiritually in the right state of mind. If his physical, mental, social, and spiritual well being is not maintained, that person is definitely not experiencing a positive state of health. Now, when we talk about when we talk about health, we understand that it encompasses physical, mental, social, spiritual, and all of this. But the discussion today, as part of this webinar, is about mental wellness, is about mind. The question that still remains unanswered, even after hundreds of years, even after decades of scientific research, scientists have not been able to conclusively um, establish where is mind located. While we broadly understand it's in the brain, is the epicenter of our feelings, of our emotions, of our, our state of being. Where exactly does it reside in our brain? Where exactly it is located? This remains an inconclusive answer. There has been enough research in this subject, but scientists have not been able to conclude. The conclusion apparently is mind is nowhere, it is everywhere. It's elusive, but it's ever present. So that's the enigma which surrounds our mind. But the fact of the matter is mind is the epicenter of our feelings, our emotions, our desires, our senses, our complexes. Mind gives direction. Mind puts us into a state of action. So mind plays a very important role. Mind is at the driver's seat when it comes to ourselves. Even if you might be physically fit, but if a mind is not fit, then we will not be in a state of, or may not have the desire to drive things, get into action, achieve outcomes, and so on. So sometimes some of us believe that mental wellness is all about not having any mental illness, but it's not exactly that. Being mentally well means that one's mind is in order and functioning in one's best interest. One is able to think, feel, and act in ways that create a positive impact on one's physical and social well being. So, mind is inextricably linked with the body and the spirit. Mind, if it is not in order and if it's not functioning in its best, at its best, one may not be able to think or feel or act in a way that he or she can create positive impact in one's physical and social well-being. So mind is extremely important. So mental wellness is all about bringing that state of well-being. And it's the mind which actually drives the body. It drives the social life. It drives our actions. But mind you, friends, why is the human mind so restless? Why is man desperately searching for that elusive happiness, that balance in his mind? Human mind is ever restless. It is always moving fast, is as restless as the stormy wind. How do we get our grip on the mind? How can we regulate our mind? What's our current state today? The human mind today, the restless human mind today is experiencing anxiety, confusion, stress, discontentment, helplessness, hopelessness, unhappiness, frustration, diffidence, negativity. When we are looking at ourselves, the humankind, the society, the people in the context of the present times, the dark clouds hovering over our life, clouds of anxiety and stress, helplessness and hopelessness, and fear. And this state of restlessness, this state of anxiety, this stressed mind, this depression in our mind is leading to certain forms of human expression. The human expression in the form of suicide, divorce, breakdown of relationships, adultery, alcoholism, drug addiction, crime, disease, death. The restless mind's manifestation in the form of these actions. Mind is the driver of action. It could be driver of positive action. It could be driver of negative action. A positive frame of mind can drive energy, can drive strength. It can drive action. It can bring in immense positivity to the society. But the negative mind can drive threats to the humankind itself. There is a big question mark on the survival of the humankind today. That's a very, very big question mark. But why is this human mind restless? Why is the human mind not finding that balance? Why is that balance missing in that human mind? Let me share with you an incident from the life of Norman Vincent Peale, very famous philosopher, author, and statesman as well. A man on one occasion came and met Norman Vincent Peale, and he asked him, Norman Vincent Peale, my mind is restless. I'm not finding peace. I'm not finding happiness. Please help me find peace for myself. Norman Vincent Peale looked at him and said, you are looking for peace? All right, no problems. So I'm writing this later. Go to that remote village, the countryside of United States, that particular village, you would meet a man. The man is the guardian, is the security guard of a big field, and he must be standing at the gate of that big field. The big field is surrounded by a huge wall, and you need to go there, meet that gatekeeper, talk to him, show him my letter, and then tell him the Norman Vincent Peale has sent me to you. The man, with lot of anxiety, eagerness, went to that village, reached that big ground, looked for that man, the gatekeeper, standing at the gate. He met him. He was excited. He extended the letter given to him by Norman Vincent and said, Norman Vincent has sent me to you. The gatekeeper opened the letter, looked at him, and then said, hey, you wanted peace? Come inside with me. Come inside. As the man and the gatekeeper walked into that huge ground, inside the huge compound wall, the man realized it's a cemetery, it's a burial ground, it's a place where people, it's a graveyard, it's a place where people bring their near and dear ones when they pass away. The gatekeeper looked at this man and then said, hey, look at all of them. Look at them. All of them are lying in peace. They're in great peace. you can be one of them. The man got little hassled, little worried, and he said, "No, no, no. This is not the kind of peace that I'm looking for. Normal Vincent Pai has misunderstood." The gatekeeper said, "No, he hasn't misunderstood you. You haven't understood him." So, my dear friends, the man was looking for peace. And the gatekeeper pointed him to all the people who were lying there and sleeping forever in great peace. But, my dear friends, is that the kind of peace that we're looking for? Is that the kind of happiness that we're looking for? No. Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, my spiritual guide, he profoundly says that a peaceful state of mind is a balanced state of mind. A peaceful state of mind is a balanced state of mind. When the mind is balanced in the midst of all circumstances that a human being is experiencing, in the midst of happiness and sorrow, in the midst of difficulties and good times, in the midst of poverty and affluence, if one can maintain one's balance, if one can maintain one's calm and composure, if one can remain steady in the midst of contradictory circumstances, if a man can remain the same, if a man can maintain his balance, then he can remain peaceful. He can enjoy happiness, because happiness is all about experiencing all facets of life, sorrows and happinesses, challenging times and difficult times, affluence and poverty. It's that balance that can actually bring about the transformation in the human mind. It's that balance that all of us need to find. And when we begin that journey to find that balance, first of all, we need to find out what are these imbalancing factors in our life. What is taking away the balance? What is creating that imbalance in our lives? What is causing that problem? What is causing that tussle in our life? What is really creating those waves in our mind, which is really turbulent? How do we break away from that turbulence? How do we break away from this imbalance? We need to understand the imbalancing factors in our life. And these are the imbalancing factors, our complexes. Our complexes: lust, ego, anger, greed, infatuation, jealousy. These are our complexes, our senses, our passions. And these passions are holding us back. These passions are really pulling us back. And the moment we overcome our ego, our anger, our greed, our jealousy, our infatuation, when we gain control over lust and desires, we will be in a state of balance. And then we will be in control. We will be in absolute control. If we are in control of our mind, we can be in control of our body, of our actions, of our social, familial, national lives, professional lives. We will be in absolute control. So we will find that balance. Let me share with you an interesting incident from the life of my spiritual guide, my living ideal, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. The famous scientist Dr. P.K. Parija once came and met Sri Sri Thakur. And in the course of the conversation, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra asked him, "Dr. Parija, have you ever gone to the market to buy vegetables?" Dr. Parija said, "Number of times, Thakur. When I was a small child, my mom used to send me to the market in the village to buy vegetables." Sri Sri Thakur asked him, "Dr. Parija, how did you know that the shopkeeper is giving you the right quantity of vegetables?" Dr. Parija said, "Thakur, it's fairly simple. It's easy. He used use a balancing scale. On one side, he used to put the weight. On the other side, he used to put the vegetables. And when the big needle on top, when the needle on top, the big one, aligns with the small one on its top, that's where I know that there is perfect balance. There is absolute balance. I have got the right weight. Sri Thakur looked at Dr. Parija, smiled, and asked him, Dr. Parija, to buy vegetables, to make sure that you get the right quantity of vegetables. You need that balance in the balancing scale. But what about our lives, Dr. Parija? Our life, which is filled with turbulence, which is filled with challenges, difficulties, problems, constraints. Don't we need that balance in our life, Dr. Parija? Don't you think that our life needs to align through that balancing factor? Like the big needle aligns with the small needle, Dr. Parija, don't you think that all of us need that small needle in our life with whom we can balance? And if we balance with him, we can find balance in our life. We'll be able to deal with the conflicts of our life, the ambiguities of our life, the challenges and problems and difficulties of our life. A life which is riddled with problems will find balance. Don't we need that personality, that man in our life? Don't we need that living ideal in our life who can bring balance in our life? Who can bring balance in our mind, who can bring balance in our personality? Don't we think we need such a living ideal? Dr. Parija said, Thakur, yes, we need that living ideal. Can you accept me as your disciple? Can you become my living ideal, Thakur? And he accepted Thakur as his living ideal. The point that I'm trying to make, the profound statement that we need a living ideal at the center of our life, a living ideal who is the supreme well-wisher of the mankind, who is fulfiller the best. We'll come back to this topic and we'll talk more about it, but I would like to share with you another incident. The famous communist leader, Janardhan Mukhopadhyay, he came to meet Sister Thakur. He was a very young, ambitious politician, and he was a communist leader. Communist leaders generally do not believe in God and religion. He also did not believe in God, but he got to know about Sister Thakur, and he was curious and anxious to meet this person called Thakur Anukul Chandra. On a rainy day, in the morning, he arrived in the Deoghar ashram, and Sister Thakur was very happy to meet him, very happy to receive him. And Janardhan Mukhopadhyay stayed over in the satsang ashram for a few days. They had long discussions, deliberations, dialogues for a number of days. On one such occasion, on a particular day, Janardhan Mukhopadhyay came to Thakur and asked him, Thakur, I have a question. Why do we pray to this imaginary God? A God whom we have never seen, a God who doesn't listen to us, a God whom we can't talk to. If we call him, he will not come before us. Why should we pray to such an imaginary God? What is the point? What is the benefit? Why should we do this? Sri Thakur was not at all disturbed by that question. He smiled, looked at Janardhan Mukhopadhyay and said, Janardhan, let's assume that you have gone to a new place. And in that place, your friends have told you that small town has a beautiful restaurant. And in that restaurant, you will get the best tea in the town. And the tea is delicious, is palatable, and you can't stop drinking that. That's so delicious. And you have gone to that city, you have gone to that restaurant, you are excited, you want to taste that tea which everybody is talking about. And with great delight, you are sipping that tea and you have taken You have taken 1 cup of tea. Little that you have realized that before you use that cup, before you drank the tea, there was another person who was infected with a serious disease, and that person had drunk tea in that cup. He had taken tea in that cup. You had no idea about it, but you were excited, you were delighted, you are filled with joy that you are tasting the best tea in the town. And Janardhan, unfortunately, 10 years later, that infection which entered inside you, which was latent inside you, became complicated and serious and infected you with a very, very serious disease. You were crippled, you are bedridden, you are in a painful state. And that day, you are saying, oh God, why did you put me in this condition? I never wanted this condition. I never desired this state of mind. But why did you put me in this condition? But Janardhan, do you think that the God in the sky, do you think that God is responsible for your state? Do you think that God is responsible for what you are experiencing? Janardhan Mukhopadhyay said, Thakur, no, I am responsible for my state. I should have been careful. I should have been checked whether the shopkeeper has properly cleaned the cups in with which he was serving tea. I should have verified that. I am responsible, no one else. Sister Thakur said, it's not enough if you want happiness. What you need to do that is essential for you to do to become happy. Sister Thakur is looking at him and then saying, Janardhan, look around. The properties of water is there all over around you. But whenever you want water, you don't get it. But if you really want to get water, you will have to go to the laboratory and bring those properties of, you have to bring hydrogen and oxygen in the right quantity, in the right temperature. You have to blend the two so that you can get water. You have to follow the process. You have to follow the principles. Just because hydrogen and oxygen exist in the atmosphere, you don't get water just like that. You have to go through the process. You have to go through the mechanism. You have to go through the right method to get water. Janardhan, you have to go through the right method, follow the right principles when you are leading your life. Because the God is also called Vidhata, the lawmaker. He has defined the Vidhi, and he himself follows the Vidhi when he comes in human form. Nobody else is spared. Nobody else can escape by not following the principles of the Vidhata. Sri Thakur said, no father wants his son or daughter to suffer. Every father wants the well-being and happiness of his children. But that does not mean the children become happy all the time. If the children do not follow the guidance, the direction, the advice of the father, go in the wrong path, they might suffer. They might face difficulties. They might face challenges. But the father always wants the well-being and happiness of the children. The God, the Supreme Father, always wants the well-being of every human being. But when we don't follow him, when we don't follow the Vidhi of the Vidhata, we have to face the consequences. We have to experience challenges, problems, difficulties, and pain in our life. Sri Thakur said, I do not believe that God is an imaginary God. I believe that he comes in human form and he gives the message of being and becoming. He gives the message of life and growth. He gives the message of existence. He brings in the message of transformation. And if we attach ourselves to that human God who comes in human form as our Sadguru, as our living ideal. Such a personality, Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra defines in Satyanusaran, he within whom all the resources of the world, knowledge, love and activity, spontaneous, and by inclination towards whom the scattered lives of men and all the diversities of the world find a final solution is God of men. Such a man, such a personality is the God of men who comes in human form. And when he comes, all the resources of the world, all the knowledge, all the love, and all actions are naturally embodied in him. It's so spontaneous within him. And when if we follow him, if we incline ourselves towards him, if we accept him, then our scattered lives, our imbalanced lives, our battered lives, our challenged lives, and all the diversities, all the conflicts, all the ambiguities of life of the world, they find a final solution. And such an individual is the living ideal, is the God of men, and he comes in human form in every age. And we need to understand why he comes in human form. And all of us, many of us believe that God is formless, he's shapeless. And such a formless and shapeless God, how can we fathom him? How can we understand him unless he comes in human form? Because he is beyond our imagination. He's beyond our ability to conceive him, the infinite, the omnipresent, the omniscient, the shapeless and then formless God cannot be understood by the human mind. That's why he comes in human form. The famous philosopher Alexis Carrel says that man cannot accept the law, the universal law of life, unless he considers that law as the commandment of a personal God. Unless that commandment comes from a personal God, a person that he can talk to, he can ask questions, he can touch, he can serve, he can go and talk to, whom he can look at. We need such a God, a personal God. Such a personal God in our sastras, in our scriptures, has been described as Purushottam, fulfiller the best. He is the supreme well-wisher of the mankind. He is the most reformed, the most transformed, the most evolved personality on the earth in that age. And when we accept him, when we align ourselves to him, and when we completely surrender ourselves to him, we rise over our complexes. Our complexes become meaningless. And such a personality is Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra, who is my spiritual guide, and millions of people across the globe, millions of people from all parts of the globe, from all walks of life, have accepted Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra as the spiritual guide, as a living guide, a personality who is fulfiller the best, who is in whom all the activity, knowledge, and love is spontaneous. And people cutting across faiths, communities, cutting across financial strata, cutting across all facets of human life, all of them have accepted, and they found a final solution. They found answers to their questions, solutions to their problems. Scientists have come to Thakur and described him as the greatest scientist of the world. Economists have come to Thakur and have described him as the greatest economist. Politicians have come and have described him as the greatest politician. He was the epitome of knowledge. He was the epitome of life. He was the epitome of love. The famous magician P.C. Sarkar came to Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra, and in the course of the conversation, he got to know about Sri Sri Thakur, and he was anxious. And he thought, I am such a big magician. I can create so many miracles. I can do so many magic. Let me go and meet this person called Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra. Let me find out. Let me test him out. Let me understand what he is. Pishi Sarkar came with an objective to examine, evaluate Thakur Nukul Chandra. His purpose was to test him, to really understand the power that this personality called Thakur Nukul Chandra had. And Pishi Sarkar describes later that when I met him, when I had that eye contact with him, when I saw him the first time, and when both our eyes met, I was hypnotized. I was hypnotized by the magic of his love. He was the epitome of love. Pishi Sarkar asked Thakur Nukul Chandra, Thakur, have you demonstrated any miracle in your life? Thakur smiled, did not answer him, and said, Sarkar, I will send you to one of my devotees who actually serves, who actually works in the satsang kitchen, which is called Anand Bazaar. Please go and meet him. He will answer your question. The devotees of Sas Thakur took Pishi Sarkar to Anand Bazaar, the kitchen where thousands of people are served food every day. Pishi Sarkar met this devotee that Sri Sri Thakur was referring to. He was Jaggeshwar Jha. And Pishi Sarkar met him and asked them question, brother, what miracle Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra has demonstrated in his life? Jaggeshwar Jha at that time was serving food in Anand Bazaar to hundreds of people who were taking prasad at that time. And he was holding a bucket in one hand and serving food on the other hand. And he immediately dropped the bucket on the ground, looked at Pishi Sarkar, raised both his hands, and then said, Pishi Sarkar, can you see my hands? Sarkar said, yes, I can. He said, there is no crime in this world. There is no sin in this world. There is no robbery in this world. There is no murder in this world that these two hands have not committed. These two hands have committed all possible crimes that one can commit. These two hands today are serving food. They're serving people. They're serving others. The two hands which are taking away lives is now serving human lives. Can that be a better, bigger miracle than this? Pishi Sarkar. Pishi Sarkar was dumbfounded. He was stunned. Jaggeshwar Jha was a terrorist. He had killed thousands of people. But by coming in contact with Sri Sri Thakur, by coming in touch with the magical personality, the magic of love and compassion that Sri Sri Thakur demonstrated to him, he was a transformed human being. There was absolute transformation in his life. A man who was a terrorist became a supreme disciple, a great disciple of Sri Sri Thakur, a great epitome of love himself. That's the power, that's the profoundness of love that Sri Sri Thakur demonstrated. His life was about love and compassion, and he transformed millions of people through this love. All of us know that we need to control our mind. All of us know that we need to regulate our complexes. But we often fail to do that. A patient of diabetes knows it very well that it is harmful for him to take sweets. A heart patient knows it very well that he needs to take care of his diet. But man, knowing the best, does the worst, doesn't follow the principles of life. But following the principle of life begins at that moment when you come in contact with such a living ideal who becomes the love center in your life. And that love center is the center who brings balance. And that's the science and art of life. When there is a center, there is absolute harmony in life. But when there is no center, life becomes scattered, a zigzag line. You can see these two pictures. A circle which has a center looks beautifully harmonious And there is another picture, an attempt to become a circle without a center, and the result is a zigzag, distracted line. So we need that center in our life. We need to become concentric around a living ideal, a personality, a guru, a sadguru. We need to become concentric. And if we're not concentric, our life would become eccentric. There is no other option. But if you have that living ideal at the center of our life, then our individual life, our conjugal life, our familial life, our professional life, our social life, all these lives will be in complete harmony. They will not overlap with each other. They will not be in conflict with each other, because one is for all are for one. And that's possible when we accept that one in our life, that living ideal. When we accept that one in our life, we will have perfect balance in our life. But if we go away from that, if we go away from the source of life, the living ideal, away from the source, deprived of resources. No matter how much we run around to find peace in our life, peace to find balance in our life, to, to, to find calmness in our life, peace in our life, happiness in our life, will not be able to do that, because we have moved away from the source and we have become deprived of resources. So Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra is such a living ideal who has transformed millions of lives by coming in contact with him, by accepting him as a love center in life. Man has been able to overcome his complexes, his passions, his bad habits. Man has become absolutely balanced, and man has achieved perfect harmony in life. Sister Thakur says, be concentric with every urge for love. Love is life. Love is faith. Love is lore. Love is a lead to active progress. Love is God and his incarnation. So, my dear mothers and brothers, delegates, seekers of the truth, seekers of the happiness, seekers of mental wellness and happiness, we need to find that balance in our life. We need to connect ourselves with the source. We need to have that love center in our life, and that will bring happiness. That will bring mental wellness. That will bring success. That will bring progress. Thank you very much. Vande Purushottam.
Thank you so much for such beautiful stories and illuminating thoughts. We all at some time have that question that Norman Vincent had, and we got to learn the playground, which is our got to learn to how to play in our playground, which is our mind, and how to keep a balance in all the facets of our life. Very enlightening, sir. Thank you.